Hey, hi guys, welcome back. I hope you're all doing well. We have a gloriously sunny day, but the wind has started to pick up, obviously, just as we're starting to record, but we will do our best. What we're going to look at in this episode is obviously the best van for van life and the most common problems that come with the most common vans for van life. Whenever this question gets posted on the van life forums, obviously everybody just comes back with their own opinion and their own experiences of the vans. So just because I list these as the common problems for the particular makes and models of the vans does not mean that you are going to get these issues if you buy that make or model of van. The vans are as unique as the people that own them, literally. I mean, for example, my first van was a Vauxhall Vivaro. Within 3 months of owning that van, it threw up a ton of generic engine codes. I had it sent to a turbo specialist, I had the injectors looked at, I had all sorts done with it. I ended up scrapping the van because they couldn't work out what was wrong with it. It was costing me a fortune. As a result, I would never touch a Vivaro again. I hate them, I don't like them. However, you get people that swear by them and go, oh no, that's not an issue. On the other hand, I also now have a transit van and people are like, the engines are like chocolate, you know, the gearboxes fall apart, it's a rubbish van. This van's on 195,000 miles. It's on pretty much all its original engine parts, nothing's been reconned. Okay, it's had a couple of new clutches. The crankshaft pulley failed and took out the power steering pump. But other than that, the engine's the original engine on 195,000 miles. So for me, transit vans are great, but you know, it's personal opinion. But anyway, what we're going to do is we're just going to run through the most common mid-sized panel vans. We're not going to go for the Lutons and we're not going to go for the tiny vans. We're going to go for the, you know, the standard panel vans because they're the ones that most people are going to be looking at. But remember to hit that subscribe button, obviously, if you want to keep following us and hear more from us. But yeah, let's get started on the best van for van life. Yeah, so we're going to start with the most popular common van on the market, which is the Ford Transit. The pluses of the Ford Transit are they're pretty cheap to buy. They're really easy to maintain. You know, whatever problem you've got, you can guarantee there is a YouTube video out there which will talk you through that problem. And to fix a Ford Transit, literally all you really need is a socket set, a torque set, a hammer and a blowtorch. You can fix 99.9% of the problems with the Transit with those tools. That's obviously brilliant for guys that are on a budget. However, on the used market, that does mean, as I've got with my van, because I've done a lot of the work myself, although it is maintained, obviously there's no garage receipts because I've done the work myself. All I've got is the full service every year and the MOT, and that's it. So on the used market, it's a lot more difficult to find a reliably maintained transit van than probably any other make or model on the market. Also, the big problem with the Transit is the rust. And this one's a 2010, so it's 12 years old, and it does need its first weld this year on the midsection outer sill on the driver's side. I've heard of some rusting quicker, I've heard of some lasting a lot longer before they need welding. It really depends. But all in all, they're a reasonably good van, they're pretty solid. The engines, I've got no complaints with mine. It's on 195,000 miles and it doesn't really need anything doing. It's still on its original major parts. You know, it's had obviously new clutches and new MAF sensors, new power steering pump and new crankshaft pulley, but apart from that, everything else is original. So yeah, transit van, pretty cheap, easy to maintain, easy to fix. Parts available 10 to the dozen, not too difficult to weld, so they're not so bad all in all. Yeah, so next we're going to touch on the Sprinter. The Sprinter is very similar to the Transit. It's a slightly bigger van, but it's the second most common van on the market. However, there is quite a big difference in the price tag, and that is not just when it comes to buying, it's also the maintenance. They are quite a bit more expensive to maintain. However, that does mean that they do tend to be looked after a bit better. You know, if your coil spring's going to cost you 50 quid to fix, yeah, no big deal. If it's going to cost you 200 quid to fix, you're going to be a little bit more careful about them potholes. So the Mercedes tend to be a little better looked after. If you do get a dash light come on a Mercedes, you do have to take it to a Mercedes specialist with a proper software to switch it off. You can't just plug in your own diagnostic tool for 20 quid off Amazon and switch it off yourself like you can on a Transit. So the paperwork history for a Mercedes will be a lot more in-depth and a lot more complete than it will be for a Transit. The downside again is they do rust quite badly. You will need to either learn to weld or befriend a welder. But again, all in all, not a bad van. If you've got a slightly more bigger budget, then the Mercedes is worth a look. A VW Crafter. Now on paper, statistically, these are the most mechanically reliable vans on the market. The VW on a whole, they've got an excellent track record. However, again, you will need quite a healthy budget to pay for that, but again, you're getting what you pay for. You will get a good reliable van. They don't really seem to have much of a rust problem. However, the Crafter's a relatively new van to the market, so as to how well it holds up, obviously we can go on all the other VWs and say it's probably going to be a pretty solid van, but it's still quite new. The other one to look at is obviously the rebadged VW Crafter, which is the MAN-TGE, and that's a much cheaper version of the Crafter because it does not have the VW badge on it. They are expensive to maintain. They will need to go to a VW most of the time to be repaired. But yeah, generally speaking, I have heard something about the piston rings. I don't know whether that is an actual thing because I've only heard it once, but I thought I'll put it in there while I'm thinking of it. But yeah, again, good sized vans come in short wheelbase, medium wheelbase, long wheelbase, extra long, low top, high top, extra high tops. So good choice in varieties to get minibus options and panel van options. You know, there's not much more to be said for that, but if you've got a really good healthy budget, absolutely have a look at the VWs, or as I say, the MAN-TGEs. They're probably the one that I would recommend if you've got a budget for it. Okay, so the next few we're gonna group together. So we've got the Fiat Ducato, the Citroen Relay, and the Peugeot Boxer. They are all built in the same factory, all built using the same parts. They are all galvanised bodies, and the bodywork is excellent on them. They don't really rust. If they do, it's like, you know, 20-plus-year-old van before you're starting to deal with any sort of rust issues with those. Also, the shape for conversion, they're very boxy, and I believe you can get a 6-foot bed across the back of those. They're quite wide. They're not the best finish because they are a lower budget van. They're a bit plasticky and tacky in the cockpit, but again, you get what you pay for. The problem with those, though, typically European, seems to be the electrics, and it seems to be that you either get the odd problem or you get completely plagued. It's almost like for every fifth van they build, they just build a shit one. So yeah, that's the gamble you're taking with those. But again, if you're working on a budget, absolutely worth a look. The bodywork is excellent, the shape is excellent, the sizes are brilliant, so absolutely take a look at those. Okay, the next two we're going to put together again, and that is the Renault Master and the Vauxhall Movano. I think it's called a Movano. These guys are both built in the same factory, again supposedly using the same parts, however the common problem seems to be different on both. The Vauxhall Movano seems to have problems with its fuel rail, and the Master seems to have issues with its injectors. Not quite sure how they've both managed to have different problems when they're both supposedly built with the same parts, but hey ho, that's how it seems to be working. However, having said that, they're both galvanised. Again, excellent bodywork. You're looking at 20+ years before you have to think about welding, provided you look after it. The shape, again, they're slightly more inverted than the European, than the Boxer, the Ducato and the Relay, but not a whole lot, so you've still got really good room right up to your roof height. Again, they come in 4 different lengths and different roof heights, so again, they're not an overly expensive van. They're not the best, but again, they're towards the budget end, so worth a look if you've not got such a given budget. Also, it's worth mentioning on the used market, they both seem to have been used quite a lot as ambulances, and so you can get quite a few of them that are already kitted out, sort of like they're already insulated, they're already lined, they've already got the air dispatchers in, and some of them have got the cabinets down both sides of the roof, which is quite handy. The only thing I would say is they do also have air suspension if they've been used as ambulances, and most people I know have taken that out because they've had problems with it, so something to be aware of if you're buying an ex-ambulance. But yeah, the Renault and the Vauxhall are, again, they're a fair shout if you've not got quite so much to spend. The next one we're going to do is going to be the Budget Boys van. It's the Iveco, and it is the Budget Boys van. It rots like crazy. It's quite inverted in shape, so if you're looking at putting a bed quite high up, I probably wouldn't buy an Iveco because they've just not got a lot of space quite high up. I'm not sure if it's a bonus. I mean, you do get a lot of van for your money, but that van does rot, so I'm not sure whether, I mean, do you want a lot of van when it rusts at the rate an Iveco does? I'm not sure. Where it tends to rust is between the wheel arches and the floor pan, so if you can't weld, or if you're not confident in welding, you will need to take it to somebody else to get that done, because there's quite a high fire risk on that one. But they're cheap, they're cheerful. They do use the Transit engine, or at least they used to use the Transit engine, so that bit of them is quite reliable. It's just everything else, unfortunately, is shocking. But yeah, again, you get a lot of van for your money, and you don't pay a lot for it because they are the cheap vans, almost, except for the next two, they're even worse. Yeah, so the next two that are even worse than the Iveco are the LDVs. Now you can get the Maxus, which is still done, or you can get the Convoy. Now the Convoy's been discontinued. I believe the newest one you can get of that is 2004. I'm not 100% on that, but that's, I think, roughly around the time they were stopped. The Maxus is galvanised, so you don't have so much of a rust issue. The Convoy is not galvanised, and they rot like buggery. The problem with the LDVs is, yeah, they're a great, cheap and cheerful van, but they seem to have taken parts from just about every vehicle that was available at the time and just put them inside the LDV. So trying to find parts can be fun. Trying to find someone that's willing to work on your LDV can be even more fun, depending on what the problem is. So I mean, they're probably the only one that I would tell people to probably steer clear of, unless you really, really are on a rock bottom budget and you've got really no choice but to buy one. I wouldn't advise it, but that's the LDVs. Yeah, we have had to go inside because it's getting stupidly windy outside. So basically, you know, we've run through the most common vans and the most common problems. And, you know, what is the best van for van life? Quite simply, there isn't one. You know, if you've got a Mercedes Sprinter that's rotten like mad, and you've got a Peugeot Boxer that's got a full service history and is in great condition, that are both within your budget, although people will sit there and go, oh, Sprinter's the best van on the market, obviously you're not going to want to buy that Sprinter, you need to buy that Peugeot. If you've got a transit van, you know, again, full service history, in great condition, or you've got a VW Crafter that looks like it's been written off and broken into, again, statistically, yes, the VW Crafter is the best van on the market, but on that occasion, you're going to want to buy the Transit. So the best van that fits in your budget is the best van for you, for your van life journey. Obviously, if you find a good van that you like the look of and you think you might want to buy, but you're not 100% confident because I bet it's a big investment, you know, you're putting a lot of money into it. Remember, there are resources available. You've got the RAC, the AA, and the one that everybody should make a note of, which is www.clickmechanic.com. They will come out to you and they will do a pre-purchase inspection for you. So they'll check all the mechanics, they'll check your bodywork, and they'll take it for a test drive, and then they will give you a write-up of what they feel, you know, whether the van is worth it, whether there's anything wrong with it. And they vary. I think you can get 3 different levels of inspection, up to £179 a time, I think. So obviously you'd only want to do it for a van that you're genuinely interested in, but it just gives you that peace of mind that you are buying a good van. Obviously, as I say, Click Mechanic is one that everybody should have in their books, because you see on Facebook a lot of the time people have gone out travelling, they've broken down, they've been towed to a garage they don't know in an area they don't know, and they've been given a quote for work that they need doing, and they post on Facebook saying, well, is this a fair quote? We don't really know. We don't know the garage, we don't know the area, we can't really answer that. But what you can do is you can go on to www.clickmechanic.com. I will put that in the description. And you can put in the nearest postcode to where you are stranded, so you get the local labour rates for that area. You put in what they say you need doing from the drop-down list of options, and then you put get a quote, and it will tell you how much you will have to pay to have a Click Mechanic mobile mechanic come out to you and fix that problem. So what that will do, I mean, you don't necessarily have to take the quote you're given, but it will give you an idea as to whether the quote you're given by the garage that you are stranded at is a fair quote or not. Obviously, if like the Click Mechanic one's way cheaper, get the Click Mechanic to come out and do it. If there's not a lot of difference, you may as well just have the mechanics that you're at do it. But it's just there to give you a bit of an idea as to whether you're being ripped off or not. Okay, so that kind of wraps up today's episode, really. I'm hoping there's been something in there that's been helpful for everybody. And what we're going to do in the next episode is we're going to look at the pros and cons of buying a self-build, or buying a factory built, or buying an empty van and doing it yourself. So join us for that next time. As I say, hit that subscribe button, hit the like button, and also comment. You know, we love to hear from you. But yeah, apart from that, take care, guys, and we will see you next time. Bye-bye.